a demonic glory hole, evil internet rituals, and the most violent movie ever made. 2022 was a great year for horror flicks. The dating world can be an absolute nightmare, and few movies exemplify that reality quite like Fresh. Daisy Edgar Jones's Nora is caught in the rat race of modern dating, wading through an endless sea of unsolicited photos and boring dinner dates. She's met most men through dating apps and are just desperately trying to get in her pants. App-based dating is a steaming trash heap of weirdness and disappointment, so Nora is absolutely elated when she gets her very own grocery store meet-cute with Steve, played by Sebastian Stan. He's a charming doofus, because he's Sebastian Stan, who woos her with conversations about cotton candy-flavored grapes and love of a good classic cocktail. The two quickly develop an adorable relationship fit for a Sundance darling rom-com from 2012, and it seems too good to be true. Well, it is. But saying anything more would spoil the fun. If you've successfully managed to escape the big reveal of Fresh thus far, do yourself a favor and continue the trend. It's sincerely refreshing to see a film take such wild and graphic thematic swings wind up on Hulu of all places. And Sebastian Stan continues to prove why he's one of the most versatile actors in the game. Sorry to the Bucky Barnes fans everywhere. You might not be able to see him in the same way ever again. When Drew Barrymore met the nasty end of the blade in the opening sequence of Wes Craven's slasher juggernaut Scream, it certainly caught the attention of moviegoers in 1996. Not only did the movie shake loose the formulaic dust of slasher movies and change its own rules, but the film would go on to become a massive success beyond its $173 million box office return. It spawned multiple sequels and a teen slasher series on MTV and then VH1. While Craven's death in 2015 put new projects on hiatus for a while, his Ghostface Killer was revived once again this year, with new directors at the wheel for the first time. Matt Bettinelli-Alpin and Tyler Gillette directed the fifth installment in the Scream franchise with the poorly titled Scream. In the film, the fictional town of Woodsboro is under threat once again from a slasher, or slashers, unknown, intent on eliminating those connected to the original killings, whether by blood relation or direct involvement. The film follows in the spirit of the previous films and marries slice-and-dice mayhem and whodunit sleuthing to be a snappy commentary on horror itself. The new Scream is both a requel and a reset of a film series that had lost its way in the middle sequels. While OG characters like Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, are brought back in this next chapter, they're given supporting roles to facilitate the passing of the baton to a fresh cast of new blood. This includes Jenna Ortega, who must be exhausted from shrieking her way through Ty West's X in the same year.
I was so scared.
As the old gives way to the new, Scream is a thrilling night at the movies, bringing depth and energy to an already strong legacy. Body horror is coming back in a big way, and the Finnish import Hatching is an incredible standout. Siri Solalina plays Tiina, a young gymnast who is desperate to appease her image-obsessed mother who runs a popular lifestyle mommy blog. Think about all of those moms on Dance Moms or Toddlers and Tiaras, slap on a coat of Ray Dunn aesthetics, and you're in the right wheelhouse. One day, a crow flies through the house, and after Tiina's mother catches it, she snaps its neck. Oddly, Tiina is awakened later that night by the pained cries of the crow in the woods and discovers a strange egg near its body. Feeling guilty about the egg losing its mother, she brings it home and keeps it incubated under a pillow, and eventually inside a stuffed animal. And then it hatches. With each passing day, the creature from the egg, which Tiina names Allie, begins to appear more like Tiina, and Tiina's behavior grows increasingly erratic. What unfolds is a revolting look at the unexplainable connection between Tiina and Allie, and the way Tiina's family completely disregards their horrific new reality in favor of maintaining appearances. The film is currently available on Hulu, and absolutely worth the watch. One of the films that falls into the weird zone of festival hit and 2021 VOD release in 2022 is We're All Going to the World's Fair. The film is a hypnotic look at what happens when the line between reality and fantasy begins to disappear, as a teen girl throws herself into a viral online game that's a kind of ongoing social media challenge. Believed to be the scariest game online, a young girl named Casey, played by Anna Cobb, starts recording the way the game slowly manipulates her physical appearance. It's similar to the way people document weight loss progressions or gender transitions. Due to her existence in a rough home, Casey doesn't have much of a social life outside of the internet, which only pushes her further and deeper into the realm of the World's Fair. The film thrives in its metaphors and subtextual messaging, refusing to give concise answers to the viewer. All viewers are forced to interpret the film on their own, much like the way society is now forced to determine whether or not the latest influencer video on a social media timeline is authentic or just an act.
Who are you to tell me how it is?
This one might be a bit too galaxy-brained for the average horror fan, but if you're someone that enjoys films that mess with your mind, this is one to watch. In his genre guide novel Danse Macabre, author Stephen King posited that most kids don't torture in the sinister sense that adults assign them when they do morbid things like pulling the wings off of insects. Instead, he frames it as an inquisitive impulse. Kids are endlessly, voraciously curious, not only about death, but about everything. And why not? They're like people who just came in and sat down during a good movie that's been on for thousands of years. When you're 5, your big gurus are Santa Claus and Ronald McDonald. When you're 5, you seek knowledge down those avenues that are open to you. Eskil votes The Innocents has its quartet of youths navigating those very avenues, which would be pretty routine until they are armed with freaky mind powers. Animal lovers beware. One kid seeks his knowledge in a pretty cruel way with the local creatures. During a thick Nordic summer, in an apartment complex isolated within a dense forest, a group of school-aged children figure out their own moral codes, tainted by varying degrees of supernatural power-ups. One begins as a victim, but given the chance to punish his bully without laying a finger on him, struggles with the corrupting effect that power has on his own sense of right and wrong. Supported by an incredible cast of child actors and a sparse script that keeps anyone from monologuing, The Innocents veers away from the sandpit of hokiness that plagues so many bad seed stories. It's both a solid thriller and an effective birth control ad. The rumors are true. The Sadness is one of the most relentlessly violent and unapologetically cruel horror films ever made. No exaggeration, no hyperbole. The Sadness must be seen to be believed. Not for the faint of heart, Rob Jabaz's directorial debut is inspired by the Crossed comic book series from Garth Ennis and Jason Burrows. The film stars Barant Zhu and Regina Lei as a Taiwanese couple attempting to find one another in the middle of a viral pandemic that has turned everyone in the world into homicidal maniacs. As the violence escalates, the government remains complicit by doing a whole lot of nothing. It cannot be overstated how unflinchingly vicious The Sadness is. If you're disappointed that there's not as much of an in-depth promotion for this title, understand that this is an intentional decision. The Sadness is one of those films that you can't fully prepare for, no matter how much you know, and it's best to let the film just overtake your senses. Fortunately, the film was acquired by Shudder and is available to stream now, but trigger warning for absolutely everything. Seriously. Ty West's X was a staunch retort to the oft-used but seldom proven claim that there are no good original horror movies anymore. SlashFilm movie critic Matt Donato beamed about the movie, saying, "Slashers are alive and well. If only we supported new original slashers as much as the next Halloween or Scream, studios would take more unbelievable risks like X." Donato is correct that the risk is unbelievable. Watching it in theaters only underlines the astonishment that the movie was greenlit for a wide theatrical release. It follows a group of filmmakers in 1979 who embarked to rural Texas to shoot an adult film. The farmhouse they stay in during production is run by an elder couple, and it's through them that the slasher approach to the story takes on a hagsploitation bent. West leavens every character with depth. Even knowing what kind of movie this is and what body count to expect, each person is whole, with ambitions and reasons for being there, including the baddies. Understanding the despair of dreams deferred, West layers in a beautifully performed acoustic cover of Landslide by Brittany Snow to interrupt the audience's bloodlust. He also adds emotion where other unnamed Texas-based contemporary slasher movies failed to. It's immersive, creating an attachment for everyone and devastation when it's their time to be swallowed by the horror movie maw.
Are you alright?
No.
As a cherry on top, that maw is practical. New Zealand-based special effects company Weta Workshop facilitates the story's ultra-violence with shocking prosthetics and old-school tricks. This allows one doomed soul's body to continue twitching after decapitation, for example, offering lowbrow blood for the horror hounds and some highbrow meat to chew on. X represents the best of what the genre has to offer. In both film and television, there has been an influx of stories about confronting the trauma of one's past in just about every genre. Horror gets to manifest that trauma in a bunch of different ways, be it monsters, ghosts, or demons. However, sometimes the most effective depiction of trauma is the trauma itself. In Resurrection, Rebecca Hall plays Margaret, a doctor and the mother of a daughter played by Grace Kaufman, about to head off to college. While attending a conference, she spots Tim Roth's David, the man who psychologically tortured her while they were in a relationship when she was 18. And he continues to pop up wherever she looks. David begins exerting his power over Margaret with the added threat of what he could do to her daughter. He also claims to have the baby boy they had together inside of him. More than anything, Resurrection is a showcase for Rebecca Hall, who has been one of the best actors working for over a decade. She has this ability to play someone unflinchingly determined and utterly hopeless within the same millisecond. Her ability to strike the right tonal balance for a piece that requires the most grounded naturalism and playing to the rafters' extremity truly is astounding. The centerpiece scene, where Margaret delivers a nearly 8-minute monologue about her abusive relationship and the horrific death of her child in one unbroken close-up alone, cements Hall as one of the best performers of the year. Resurrection is not afraid to get weird, to get arch, and it won't be to everyone's liking. Writer-director Andrew Siemens and Rebecca Hall provide a psychological horror picture unlike any you'll see in 2022. And if you can get on its wavelength, it'll knock your socks off.
If you're watching this, it means that something went wrong.
At this point, the combination of Scott Derrickson, C. Robert Cargill, and Ethan Hawke in horror might as well be a license to print money. The trio reunited for the first time following the rousing success of Sinister to adapt the Joe Hill short story of the same name. Set in the 1970s, The Black Phone is a story of a young boy named Finney, played by Mason Thames, a sweetheart of a kid. Unfortunately, he is easily targeted by bullies and spends his out-of-school hours trying to tiptoe around his abusive father. Fortunately, he has the support of his little sister Gwen, played by Madeline McGraw, who despite her size has the fighting strength to back up her razor-sharp tongue. Finney and Gwen's hometown has been plagued by a series of missing children for a while, with the community nicknaming the predator the Grabber. Unfortunately for Finney, he becomes the Grabber's latest victim, and if the spirits of those he's killed before have their way, hopefully his last. Where The Black Phone shines is its balance of horror and heart. While the story isn't quite as traumatically terrifying as Sinister, it's a tale of survival and overcoming tremendous adversity. Finney is constantly waffling between trying to stay brave for the sake of survival and breaking down in terror because, after all, he's still just a kid. Throw in some haunting phone calls from a gang of dead kids, a sister with supernatural sensitivities, and a memorable mask from horror legend Tom Savini, and you've got yourself a recipe for one of the best horror films of the year. Get Out might still be Jordan Peele's most tightly written movie, but Nope is Peele at his most ambitious. It's a horror sci-fi film about a giant mysterious creature in the sky, and it's also somehow a movie about exploitation in Hollywood. Or it's about our unhealthy obsession with spectacle, or about how we need to be more respectful towards animals. Or maybe it's about child stars and their trauma. It could be about all of these things at once, or knowing Jordan Peele's work, it could be none of them. Far more than most blockbusters, Nope is a movie that lets you look between the lines and come to your own conclusions. You'll get from it what you put in. Some would argue that Nope doesn't fully qualify as a horror film. After all, it's a remarkably funny movie when it wants to be, and most of the final act is filmed in broad daylight. But when Peele goes full horror, he goes hard. There's a 40-minute stretch in the middle where things go from bad to worse, and any viewer who's ever suffered from claustrophobia might want to look away. And animal lovers might want to skip over the chapter called Gordy. As if Us wasn't enough, Nope proves once and for all that Peele isn't just a one-hit wonder. It's a movie that juggles several tones, themes, and genres at once, and makes it all look easy. It gives you some good scares, lovable characters, and plenty of ideas to chew on. What more can you ask for? Whoever out there keeps saying that they don't make original horror anymore surely hasn't seen the Lovecraftian glory hole chaos known as Glorious. Directed by Rebecca McKendry and starring Ryan Quanten and J.K. Simmons, Glorious is an existential Lovecraftian two-hander coated in pink-tinted cosmic horror. The story follows a mysterious man after he arrives at a rest stop to rid what appears to be the last remnants of a relationship. Instead, he finds himself trapped in the bathroom with the son of the eldritch god Cthulhu, Ghatanothoa, aka Got, who has taken refuge in an adjacent bathroom stall. Thanks to a snappy script from Joshua Hall, Todd Rigney, and David Ian McKendry, Glorious is also injected with solid moments of levity. There's sure to be plenty of fun for the audience to enjoy while realizing the fate of the universe is dependent on a scruffy dude harboring a seriously demented secret. Glorious is one of the year's best, if only because it manages to tell a compelling story without the stars ever sharing the same space. Quanten delivers a strong leading performance, while Simmons continues to prove why he's one of the best Hollywood voice actors in the business. Got is turned into a captivating amorphous being, hidden behind bathroom graffiti and a glory hole. Even with a microscopic budget, Glorious more than delivers the goods. The Predator franchise has been a sci-fi horror favorite since 1987. After all, it's hard to forget Arnold Schwarzenegger yelling at Elpidia Carrillo, "Get to the chopper!" Dan Trachtenberg's Prey is arguably the best follow-up entry yet. Starring Amber Midthunder as Naru, it takes everything back to the fundamentals that made Predator so compelling in the first place. The hunt, set centuries before the events of the first film, Prey takes place in the Great Plains in 1719. It's set among a Comanche tribe fending off treacherous French fur traders who are ravaging their land and destroying the buffalo for their hides. Eager to prove herself as a warrior, Naru, played by Midthunder, is determined to complete a rite of passage that's only reserved for the men in her tribe. When a predator is suddenly dropped off on Earth to find the planet's worthiest adversary, Naru finds herself forced into its crosshairs. Trachtenberg brought everything back to the ultimate lesson from the first film, that the hunt isn't about firepower, but rather it's a game of wits. Naru defies expectations at every turn, which proves to be an asset overlooked by everyone she knows until it's too late. Prey is compelling, exciting, and genuinely terrifying, but it's also stunningly made. The exceptional action and gore in Prey are an added bonus, but truly it's the plot and characters that make this such a standout for 2022.